We'll start sitting in a cross-legged position with our head over our shoulders and our shoulders over our hips, and wiggle into the ground. So you want your sit bones sitting into and rooted into the ground. Sit tall through the spine. Take a few breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Warming up the body, bringing our arms up over our head and back to heart center. Up, over our head and heart center. Just slowly warming up every part of the body. One hand down to the earth and the other to the side. Feeling a long stretch through our side body. Remembering to breathe. As our arm comes up, we inhale and exhale to the side. Both hands come to the floor, and we'll move into our first position, which is mermaid. So one leg comes to the back where we have our foot behind us here, pointed toes, and our toes rest onto the back of the ground, and our front foot kind of nestles in on the side of our thigh. So our heel is towards our inner body and our toes are pointed out. One hand on our knee in the front, and then just hold our toes on the back here. And we're going to gently rock forward and back. You may hear a few creaks, just the body warming up. Feeling this on your sit bone and your glute. Think of it as massaging one of the biggest muscles in our body. And just a natural breath here. Feeling the rock could be similar to rocking in a rocking chair. We'll land here on our forward knee, resting our back foot again to meet the ground. And then place our hand that was on our back foot onto our hip. And this is our first warm up for our hip. So our front hand comes to the back, and it can either be TP'd out or flat on the ground. I like to point my hand backwards. If you're on the computer all day long and you're constantly typing, the opposite of that is moving your hand behind you. So one hand on your hip and one hand rooted into the ground, and just slowly lift your hip forward. And everybody's body is just a bit different, and each side is a little bit different. So just rocking your hip forward and back. Loosening up those hip flexors. And pushing forward. And not straining, but just gently lifting and sitting. We'll take two more on this side. And then rest back down. Moving to the opposite side, so switch those legs right over. We'll start back in our mermaid. So remember, our front foot, our heel is to our inner body, and our toes are out and kind of can meet our leg here. And our back foot, our toes pointed, and then the bottom part, or the top part of our foot, is actually going to meet the ground. Front hand on our knee. Tuck those toes in your hand, and then gently rock. And like with anything that we do with our body, we want to make sure that we're having an equal balance to each side. So if we do something on one side, we would like to do it on the other. But also noticing that each side of our body is just a bit different. So this side might feel a little tighter than the other. Or maybe you're thinking, oh my gosh, this side is really flexible compared to the opposite side. when you feel a little bit more comfortable with these movements, you can pause and then slowly move forward. So instead of rushing through it, we're really feeling what that's doing to our glutes. And then one more here, rock back and forward. And relaxing the foot down. Front hand comes to the back, teepee or root to the ground, and our back hand comes forward onto our hips, and we'll slowly begin to move that hip up and then back down. Really ensuring that every time we move up, we're stretching and almost pausing. So the stretch is actually going from mid-chest all the way through to the top of our thigh. So not just working our hip flexor. And when we sit back down, we're actually sitting down into the ground and then lifting back up. And your hand is just there to guide your hip, not to push or pull, letting the body do the work instead of the hand. Remembering to breathe. Last one here, forward. Maybe hold it and just feel that stretch, and then resting back down. Bringing both feet forward now, coming a little bit deeper into our hips, because when we're running and starting to move, maybe for the first time, or kind of rekindling that fire, we want to make sure that we're opening up our hips and allowing space for our legs to move more fluidly. So this is butterfly, and there's so many things that we can do in the butterfly position, but your butterfly may be here and it may be all the way down with knees to the ground, and every butterfly is a good butterfly. So if your knees are feeling as though they're just hanging in outer space, you can take blocks or pillows or rolled up blankets. You don't need fancy yoga blocks. If you have the blocks, there are several levels to blocks, so you can be down here, or your butterfly may look like this. So just do what feels comfortable. But the idea with your butterfly is that you're using your legs as the gravity pull. And so just allowing, again, your own body to do the work. So if you're here, just allowing your knees to rest onto those blocks. You may have to move the flesh away from your sit bones and sit up nice and tall and be. So if you're here, just land, whether your hands are behind or maybe your hands are forward onto your feet. Making sure that your spine is tall, your head is over your shoulders, and just allowing that stretch to happen. The next opportunity is to move your bum back just a bit, your feet forward, so they come into a little bit more of a diamond shape. And to go a little bit deeper into the stretch, you can take a block either on the long way or the tall way and come forward with your head. I'll do this from this side so you can see what that looks like as well. But again, we're just working on our hip flexor area. So whether it's sitting tall and allowing your body just to fully sit into your hips, or coming forward just a bit and maybe moving your arms out a little bit further and your feet out a little bit further so your head just rests. Allowing gravity to do its work. You should feel this in your side body all the way up and along each side of your spine. Feeling the difference if you bring your hands in versus having them out. And stay here for 5 breaths or 6. And when you feel complete, moving those hands in, removing your block, and coming back to the seated butterfly. So from our seated position here, we'll begin to warm up our hips, moving both hands in front of us and allowing our legs to come back. Not in a direct tabletop position, but one hand forward. And so we'll gently begin to move forward and slowly make circles, pushing ourselves back and to the side. Focusing on where the hips are in space. Pausing slowly to reach through our side body and then coming back to forward. And each body is different. You could do hip circles, 3 on each side or 5. Your body will tell you what it needs. And then switching and doing the opposite. Remembering whatever you did on one side should be done on the other. Fingers are rooted into the ground. Top of toes are pushing as you move your hips around. And on your last hip circle, coming into center and then widening the knees on the mat, bringing the toes together and pushing down into a child's pose. Forehead can rest on the mat, arms can rest on the mat, and breathing into your hips. If forehead to the mat doesn't serve your body well, keeping that block nearby or perhaps a blanket and allowing the forehead to meet the block. We're still doing the same thing, which is focusing on opening up our hips and stretching our side body. Coming back up, removing the block. And we'll take our first down dog. So we'll curl our toes underneath our body, move our hands long but root into our fingers, and lift ourselves up. You may need to make small micro adjustments here. But imagining when you're lifting into down dog that there's an imaginary line from your tail all the way to the sky. Bending your knees, allowing your arms to stay strong, and really stretching every part of the back of your legs, allowing your head to hang, and walking your feet to your hands. We'll come into a standing forward fold. Again, knees stay nice and bent here. And just being in this moment, again, allowing gravity to just kind of pull your body forward. Feet remain rooted, knees bent. Taking a big inhale, and hands come to shin. Gaze forward, heart forward, and then relax, forward fold. Sweeping the arms all the way up overhead, we'll look up, stand up tall, hands come together, and to heart center. Taking a big inhale, arms come up, forward fold, hands meet the earth, bend in the knee, hands to shin, look up, soften and fold forward. One more time, arms come all the way up, hands to heart center. Arms up, look up, fold forward, bend in the knee, hands to shin, heart forward, gaze forward. Now coming all the way down, we'll plant those hands and step 1 foot back. And from our 1 foot back, we'll drop our knee, uncurl our toes, and come to crescent lunge, bringing our arms up overhead. And when we're thinking about our body, our feet are rooted, our ankle and knee are in alignment. And again, our back toes are actually pushed against the mat. So front toes are rooted down and back toes are also rooted down. Making sure that we're staying long in our spine like there's an imaginary string pulling all the way from the top of our head. And coming back down. Uncurling our toes, rooting our hands, lifting our knee, and pushing back to that downward dog. Imagine that this down dog position is actually a resting pose. You can walk your dog and warm up your feet. It's almost a massage to the toes. Rooting in through the hands. Bringing the opposite leg forward now, just simply pull your leg forward underneath your body. And I have the wrong leg. Here, making sure that your toes are rooted, your ankle and knee are in alignment. Drop that back leg, uncurl the toes, and come back up for crescent. Hands come back to the side. Lift the toes and the knee. And push back to downward facing dog. Now taking this into a flow, we're going to walk our feet back to our hands. Coming back into that forward fold. Bend in the knee, root through the feet, and sweep the hands up overhead. And hands to heart center. So let's do that flowing at your own breath together. Inhale, arms up, look up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, hands to shin, look up, heart up. Forward fold. Hands plant. Step 1 foot back. Make sure the feet are rooted in the front foot. Back knee drops, uncurl the toe, and lift up to crescent. Hands come back to the earth, lift up your back knee, and move back to downward facing dog. Walk out your dog, or keep your knees bent. Taking 2 breaths in down dog. And sweeping the opposite leg forward. Dropping the back knee to the earth, untucking the toes, and coming up to crescent. Hands circle back next to the feet. Lift that back leg and come back to your downward facing dog. We're going to add another pose into our flow here. So bringing one leg forward, we'll bring our left leg forward, coming back into a lunge. This is runner's lunge. So imagining that you're almost on like a railroad track. And again, both feet are rooted into the earth. Our front leg, our ankle, and our knee are in alignment. We'll bring both hands up to a high lunge. So from runner's lunge here, as you're imagining getting started on a track, and then pulling from your core and lifting your arms all the way up. Keeping those legs nice and strong. And then coming back down. Moving back into down dog. Walking out your dog, taking 2 breaths here. And then bringing your right leg forward into that runner's lunge, rooting through your feet, staying really strong in your legs, and imagining you're pulling from your core and bringing your body all the way up. One side may still feel different than the other. Sweeping the hands back down to the earth and coming back to your down dog. Allowing the head to hang, the arms feel strong, the knees are bent, and breathe. Walking your feet to meet your hands, coming back into that forward fold. Maybe grab your arms on either side, feeling the stretch through the back of your legs, bending your knees, releasing the arms back to the earth, and sweeping your hands up and back to heart center. Sweep hands up overhead, dive forward, hands come to shin, gaze up, heart open, forward fold, hands plant onto the earth, step your left foot back, and we'll come into our lizard lunge. So in our lizard lunge, our front foot walks to the side of our mat, our back knee drops, toes curl under, and wiggle that forward foot, the front foot just a little bit more forward. So you can stay in high lizard, hands are still planted to the earth here, toes are rooting into the earth, and feeling that stretch all the way through your glutes, in your hamstrings, into your hips, and just gazing forward. Imagining that the head to the tailbone is in one line. If you're looking for an advancement, taking those blocks, whether 1 or 2, could also be a blanket or something else that's folded up inside, and just resting your arms onto the block. Again, back foot is meeting the earth. On the top, front foot is forward, toes are rooted. And really feeling into the stretch. Something I love about yoga is that we can either be flowing and doing things with our breath, so 1 breath in, 1 breath out, or we can enjoy these long passive holds, really allowing our body and our muscles to work together. I almost imagine that with every breath I take, my body is stretching just a little bit deeper into a pose or settling into a pose. And wherever you are, coming back to neutral, removing those blocks, rooting your hands back into the earth, clipping the back toes under, lifting the knee, and bringing your right foot back into down dog. Noticing how the body feels different on one side versus the other. Maybe bending those knees. Maybe pedaling out the feet. And now we'll take the left leg forward. So lifting up, moving forward, making small micro adjustments so we're in alignment. Our hands move to the inner part of our body. Our front foot moves forward or inches forward. Back knee rests to the earth. Flip those toes. And again, if you're looking for a deeper stretch, coming all the way down to the earth, settling into the side of our hip. Elbows come and meet the earth. And just breathing. Allowing the head to rest. Bringing the hands back to the earth. Untucking the back toes. Rooting in with all 10 fingers, lifting the knee. And bringing that leg back into down dog. Pedaling out the feet. Pushing back into that down dog. Bringing the knees to the earth. Having our big toes meet, pushing the knees to the side, and coming back into child's pose. Noticing the difference in the body from the first child's pose. Perhaps you can widen out the knees a bit more, allowing the hips to push back, and perhaps the hands can now inch a little bit more forward, getting a deeper stretch into the side body. And when you feel complete, bringing those hands back towards you, knees come back in, and we'll meet in a seated position. So meeting back into our seated position, we'll come back to our butterfly, just noticing where our hips are feeling now. And maybe you don't need the blocks on the side of your legs anymore, or maybe noticing that instead of having the blocks on their tallest setting, or maybe you started, they're on the next setting or the lowest setting. Just sitting into our sit bones, keeping our spine nice and long, and just walking our hands forward. Again, noticing the difference in our body from maybe the first time that we did this. Remembering to breathe. And noticing with every breath that we take, how you can sit further back into the pose. And perhaps you allow your arms to drop. Walking your hands back to your feet and extending your legs long. Ensuring that our sit bones are connected to the earth, keeping our toes pointed up. We'll take our right leg and bring our leg forward like we're going to rock a baby, or like our leg is our baby. And sometimes I kind of think of my legs as my baby because they do a lot of walking for me, and they're going to do a lot of running for you. so we have to give them lots of love. So as you grab your leg here and kind of hold it like you would hold a brand new little something, right? So just rocking forward and back. Appreciating your leg. Thank you, leg, for running with me and being strong. Just rocking back and forth. And when you feel complete with this leg, I always like to give my knee a kiss. And even if you have to blow your knee a kiss from this far away, it's okay too. And then putting it back down. Sitting back into your sit bones and just taking a nice deep inhale and exhale. Keeping your spine long. And bringing our left leg up. So cradling again into our arms. And again, every body is different, so whatever your cradle looks like here is completely acceptable. The idea is to really just spend time holding your leg, massaging your glute, and appreciating every ounce of these legs that keep us going and keep you running. Rocking back and forth. And when you feel complete, thank you, leg, and put it back down. So coming back into a seated position, we'll close out our practice with a few deep breaths in and out through the nose. Honoring the space between each breath as we inhale the good and exhale what no longer serves us. Noticing how our body feels different than it did when we first began. How we may feel a little taller, a little stronger. Bringing your hands to center. May the courage and the strength and the wisdom that you brought to your mat continue as you run. Namaste.